Gerd, thanks for joining this podcast. Really excited. Before we get started, why don't you tell me what is NTS Retail and what are you in charge of there?
Hi, Scott. So thank you very much, and thanks for the invite as well. So my name is Gerd Eberhardt. I'm with NTS Retail, and we are a software vendor mainly focused on providing software for telecom operators, mainly also for the store part of the telecom operation. We are doing this since quite some time. So the company started as a startup like in 1997, so it's more than 20 years ago, with 3 people, not in a garage, but in a in an old store that wasn't used anymore, in a small grocery store, just a few meters from where I'm now. Our headquarters now is a little bit bigger, so we are located in Linz. So it's in Austria. It's in the middle between Salzburg and Vienna. For those who you might know these cities a little bit better. And yeah, we are here and have a lot of some customers in about 20 countries at the moment, mainly telecom operators for now, and we are kind of expanding our business.
That's cool. And so you have an interesting background, formal background in software engineering, research, and innovation, but you're also a lecturer at university. Tell us about your career trajectory from research to product management at NTS.
Sure. So I was always interested in computers, so from a child age on, and it was very soon clear to me that I have to study something with computers. So software engineering was my goal, and finished this in 2008, and then continued maybe in the career path of the university. For 5 years, I was a scientific assistant, trying to get my PhD, but then realized, oh no, I will never finish it. I'm more interested in being with customers and on site and not sitting in some room writing about some theory. So then after 5 years, it was very good experience, and I learned a lot, and I had the chance to always be very close to customers because we had a lot of customer projects also in university. And then I had the chance to start at NTS Retail. So in 2013, I switched from university to NTS Retail, started in the innovation department of NTS Retail. So it was its own team, building new stuff, trying out new things, trying to get a better feel what the market really needs, and building very heavily prototypes and going out with them to our customers and to our customers' customers. So the end customer. Then I was heading this department, and now I took it with me to the product management here at NTS Retail. So we were kind of building these prototypes and these new ideas for some years now. So 7 years it is, and now I see that these ideas come to life and are in place at some of our customers already. So that's good to see for me.
That's incredible. And so having that formal engineering background, do you think your approach is different when managing product than other product leaders?
I can't really tell if it is that much different, but I hope that I'm a little bit closer with the customer and getting their ideas and making sure they are not lost in the way. So having a kind of a process, how you want to set up a prototype and how much you would invest in prototyping such ideas. Of course, that's something I also learned at university, and I'm very glad for that, and hope that I can do a good job here as well.
That's great. And so let's flip over to product management in telco retail. The last few months have been kind of chaotic for I think every company and every industry, including telco. How has COVID impacted Austria and NTS Retail in particular?
Yes, we were hit actually quite early. So Austria got kind of infamous for spreading COVID-19 in ski resorts. So Ischgl, for example. That's not the best, of course. But on the other hand, we had the chance to react quite early. So what our government did, they They made the lockdown quite early, so we started at mid of March, if I'm remembering correctly. And we had it ongoing for almost a month. So we were really not allowed to go outside, do anything besides doing groceries or visiting a doctor. And also this impacted our company. We were still allowed to go to work, so it wasn't that strict as you might have heard from Italy, where they even shut down really the whole industry. And so we had the chance, of course, in NTS Retail to still go on with our projects. We were very glad that also a lot of our customers continued working on the projects we are currently on with them. So we had the chance to continue work quite smoothly from home. So we switched from one day to the other, all employees to the home office, and thanks to our IT department. So thank you, Oliver. Everything worked well, and everybody was able to connect. So also video conferences worked good, and even in the crisis, we were quite lucky because we didn't have to have people on site. We could do everything from home, and we are quite used to working remotely. We have also some of our team members are in Slovakia, in Russia as well, and more or less all over the globe. So we are kind of used to remotely working, not only internally, but also with our customers in more than 20 countries in the world. So so we couldn't visit them. That was sad. And we couldn't visit the stores as well to see how everything is going, because you should just go there if you need to. But in the end, it kind of worked out well. And now we are very good on recovery at the moment in Austria. So everyone is a bit afraid about a second wave. I think it will be the same about in Canada, I can just imagine. But yes, we're very hopeful. Everything is open now, so almost all restrictions got lifted, except the 1 meter distance we have to keep in Austria. And we hope that it will stay there.
That's great. And so when you talk about, you have a lot of your projects and initiatives still going on with the telcos, did you find any of the telcos were accelerating some of your projects as a result of this, or have they just stayed the course with what was important to them?
So as most of our projects are quite big ones, like introducing a new point of sale system, so this fortunately were kept on track. But we have quite recently launched some new products like our self-service and our welcome and queue management system. And with those, I see, of course, a lot of more requests coming in right now. There was one project already running. We didn't have the chance to accelerate it, unfortunately. It would have made a lot of sense to get this out quite even earlier, but unfortunately it wasn't possible. But we saw a lot of more attention on these products right now because of COVID-19. Yeah.
And so maybe we could take a different perspective. Obviously, the projects that are already in scope and already being built on, it's tough to push them through even faster. But where you're at early stages with some of your customers on kind of aligning on, hey, here's a project that we want to get done, was that accelerated to, let's get this done and get working on it?
In some perspective, yes. But I have to say, also our customers were struggling with COVID-19. So all of them had to go to the home office, and it was and still is for some of them a really tough time. So not in every country we have the luxury to, as I'm now in office, others still have to work from home. So it's quite difficult. But I see a lot of interest in moving forward with those projects. But we are planning quite long term. So we are quite deeply integrated into our client systems. So it takes some time for analysis as well. And unfortunately, it's nothing we could do from today to tomorrow.
Valid point. And so, how do you recommend telcos approach this crisis, and what are the things you'd recommend them to focus on as they get out of it?
Yeah, so first of all, in the beginning of the crisis, most of the actions they had to take were kind of dictated by government or common sense, of course. So like building acrylic walls, sanitizing your hands, keeping a distance to the customers. But of course, this is all very short term. So what telcos should do right now is think a little bit more long term. So what would be the next steps for them to do to ensure, let's say, safe shopping again in the stores? So in most countries, from the customers I know, the telecom industry was declared a critical infrastructure. So also a lot of shops still stayed open during the crisis. So they were on the same level as doing groceries and having the things to eat in the evening ready. Like, so it's also a critical need to have a working phone and a working internet connection. So that puts them in quite a tough spot. And also they have to make sure that it's safe to visit their stores. And what we see now on the long term and what we would recommend, we would like to cut these peak hours of shops, because you have crowded shops. In 2019, it was quite fine to have a crowded shop. I, as a customer, never like a crowded shop, because I want to go there and be served right away. But at least it didn't look dangerous. If you see now a picture of a crowded store, you would say something is wrong there. Yeah, that doesn't look safe to me. So yeah, kind of. I hope telcos will invest a little bit more in channeling their store traffic. So flattening these peaks of high capacity store hours where a lot of people are coming, like in the evening, and trying to introduce methods to ensure that people are that this curve is being kind of flattened, yeah, and the store capacity is better met.
Exactly. And so what would be, what's your recommendation on doing that? Does NTS have products and or services that can help with some of that?
Sure, yes. We introduced our NTS Welcome Manager like 3 years ago, and last year on NRF we added some additions, so like a self-queue-in terminal, so that you don't have to have a personal interaction, because our NTS Welcome Manager, as we call it, takes quite a different approach, and a more customer-centric approach, I would like to say. Because our initial idea was, these queuing systems where you pick a number, you have to look at the screen when it's your turn. So it's quite cumbersome, and I'm not feeling like a VIP customer if I have to pick a number and have all the responsibility to not miss my spot. And actually, I can't leave the store even. So of course, some of our customers said, yeah, that's good, because people should look at the products we have there in the store. But I, as a customer, I don't want to wait in the store if I have a problem, for example, with my phone, and this needs to be fixed. It doesn't make sense for me to wait in the store. I have maybe some other errands around. And that was the idea for our, let's say, kind of different approach of our queuing system, where we would say, let the customer leave the store, send them a test message if it's their turn, so they can do some errands around, and benefit now for COVID-19. You don't have a crowded store, so it makes sense.
Yeah, that's incredible. And so, any examples where telcos are using using the Welcome Manager successfully?
Yeah, sure. So our first customer using this new product, the Welcome Manager, was a telco operator here in Austria. And I just talked to the project manager and the head of own branded retail yesterday, and asked them, so how was COVID for you? What was the measures you have taken? So of course the ones we already know, wearing masks and so further and so on. But I was very happy to hear they also used our NTS Welcome Manager during the crisis. I was expecting, because they have both solutions in place, the one where you can queue in via a kiosk, so unattended, without the human interaction. And on the other hand, they have also the option to do this with a real person. So you are approached by a store employee who welcomes you, who asks you why you're here, what they can do for you. And I was assuming they must be choosing the kiosk, so because there is no human interaction. But I was wrong, and now I understand why they've chosen to have the human Welcome Manager. They said they want to also pick up the customer on a emotional level. So we are in a crisis, and people don't want to bother clicking on a machine. That they want to have a human interaction, of course, with all the security standards that have to be met. But it made sense for them, they told me. So they were quite happy that our system was so flexible to have both options. So also the human interaction and also the kiosk if needed.
That's incredible. And And it goes back to that whole thought of really wanting that local one-to-one interaction with, with your person, your store, and the customer. So it's cool that that's kind of where it's gone. Old habits are probably tough to break, where humans are looking for that human interaction versus just the kiosk where you can check in virtually. So that's neat. How's the pandemic influenced your product strategy and go to market?
So our product strategy, I'm very happy that we did, even before COVID-19, had some newer products on the line already. So like, as we mentioned before, the NTS Welcome Manager, our queuing solution, as well as the self-service. What we did in kind of strategy, of course, we are now promoting more those solutions, because it also, as we heard before, with the one customer in Austria, for them it made sense to have the human interaction. Other customers tell me, no, we want to avoid all this human interaction. Let's put more focus on self-service kiosks where we can do some simple operations and we don't have to have a human interaction. So we see even before COVID-19, big need for this for these kiosks in the retail sector. I personally am a big fan of human interaction. So I love it to go to a store and have a conversation with a skilled employee. But on the other hand, if I would have to wait for this for like 15, 20 or 30 minutes, I also tend to have, for some quick things I need, I would also love to go to a kiosk and have it done there. So it's kind of the right mixture you have to provide in a modern retail store. So on the one hand, providing this, of course, needed personal interaction with people, and on the other hand, moving away these cumbersome processes that only take up a lot of time for both sides, not only the employee but also me, as if I'm imagining I'm a customer. I want to have some of the things done very quickly, and for some of those things, I don't need a human interaction or a store employee to solve it for me. I can do it myself.
For sure, and that's a good point. Just want to double back on it. You spoke about demoing Welcome Manager at NRF. One of the other products you demoed at NRF was SIM Dispenser, which seems like a fairly timely solution for this day and age. Can you talk a bit more about what SIM Dispenser is and why you think it's so relevant today?
Yes, we showed our newest solution, the NTS self-service, with an extension where you can also directly buy a SIM card on a kiosk. So this is a product that absolutely makes sense in like an airport or in front of stores if the store is not open. If I'm a tourist, I would need quickly a SIM card. So maybe I don't even speak the language that they are talking there, so the country that I'm visiting. So it's quite easy to have difficult languages available on such a kiosk. But this comes also with with a lot of problems. If it wouldn't be that easy, a lot of companies would offer it. At least, and I believe that's not the big difference between Canada and Austria. We have quite strict laws how and whom we can give a SIM card and what information we would need from that person. So we need to identify the person, and that gets quite tricky on a kiosk, as you might imagine. So in a store, there is an employee. He or she can look at my passport or my ID card and say, yeah, that's Gerd. Yeah, I'm sure, or quite sure. But for a kiosk, it's quite harder to do if I'm Gerd standing in front of the kiosk. And we have to comply to a lot of laws. Kind of terrorism law, anti-terrorism law that wouldn't allow us to give away a SIM card to like anyone without identifying the person. So that was the tricky part about the product, and we are still, to be honest, in the certification process, hoping, fingers crossed, that we that we get through it, because that's a new way of issuing SIM cards, at least here in Europe. So you have some procedures that are already allowed by law, so like having video ident, but you still have a real person on the other end looking at your ID card and verifying that you are you. And yes, doing this in a fully autonomous manner on a kiosk is quite new. And we work together with some very good companies providing us facial recognition, algorithms, and also scanning of passports with a quality where you can really match the picture on the ID card with the person standing in front of it. Also with live checks, is Gerd not just holding a picture of him in front of the camera? Is it really Gerd? Is he alive? Yeah. So a lot of challenges we have to meet here, and yeah, if everything goes well, so again, fingers crossed, we should go live next month with the first product in Germany, actually. So let's hope for that.
That's incredible. Whether it's in more postpaid dominant countries or even in some of the developing countries, it's an incredible idea where you have that SIM dispenser in airports and different parts of the world. It's a really cool idea.
Thanks for that. Yeah. So we hope, at least.
Self-serve products are a clear way of creating value for customers. What other value creating trends do you have your eyes on for telco retail?
So, of course, telco retail is a very tough industry sector because they have the hardest job. They have to sell something you cannot touch, you cannot feel, because most of them are selling a plan, so for your mobile. So it made sense for them to add mobile phones to sell together. And yeah, so we are just looking at ways, what else could it be that our customers are needing right now to give more value to the stores that they are already providing, and what software, because we're a software company, they would need to better do their job. Yeah. So we are very closely looking and having also a product launched in the direction of assisting the employees with the consultation. So it's called the sales assistant. And this sales assistant allows the employee to have the whole product catalog at his hand, do some combinations, and yeah, it can get quite difficult to find the right plan. So there are a lot of variations of possibilities I can put together to just simply have a working plan and do my phone calls and have my data and so further and so on. And if I'm not a very if people are not very technical, it can get quite difficult to find the right combination. And we are trying to assist our telco customers in assisting their end customers finding the right choice, so what they really need. So this is also part we are looking quite closely, but not only. So now with COVID-19, we see also the need for better integrated and real omni-channel processes. So that's still lacking in some points. As we see, omni-channel, we talked about it years ago, and we would assume it's already here, but if you look closely, it's not. So you still have these issues of buying something online and trying it to return online. So a lot of our customers do a great job, so no question. But we also see some of them having still issues with that simple omni-channel processes, and customers don't think in channels. So they don't differentiate where they bought it. So it's one brand they are interacting with, and they are imagining it should work on any channel, what I'm needing now. So this is also where we try to assist with our products, and I'm trying to encourage as well our customers to invest more in these seamless customer journeys, and not trying to differentiate too much between the channels. And that's also what we see, as we have quite close relations to our customers. We see also some internals, so that a few years ago, the online department was its own department. It was quite separated, and they are moving away from this strict, strict borders between departments, and having more the customer-centric way of looking at things, and providing real omni-channel in the end.
And it's a valid point. I think, whether it's call it retail or channels, customers, as you said, they see all different points of transactions as retail or that front line, and whether it's digital, whether it's somebody work from home or a call center rep reaching out to them, and or true bricks and mortar retail. So it is critical to have that seamless transition between those different channels to ensure the customer is happy with the service and truly sees the operator as one, regardless of channel. So that's a great point.
Absolutely, yeah.
Do you think there's other retail or frontline sectors that telco could learn from? And if so, why?
Sure. Yeah, so I believe telco retail as itself is quite an early adopter of a lot of technologies. So we're working very closely, for example, with our guys from Swisscom, Switzerland. They are the ones who are heavily investing in new ideas, trying them out and bringing something new to the retail sector. So I believe in some ways it's the other way around, where other sectors are learning from telco retail. But on the other hand, I do also see the option for telcos to learn from others, because as I mentioned before, as they are promoting their products, this can get quite complicated. So when I think about Netflix, Disney Plus, and so on, this is quite a simple product. So I have 3 choices to make. So what is the bandwidth or the quality, image quality I would need? That's about it. And they've done a lot of work in simplifying those processes or their plans, let's say. But there's still a way to go, I think, because it can get quite tough to choose the right plan. And yeah, that's what I'm hoping for, that telco operators are also learning from other industries, having a simple product to sell.
So you touched on Swisscom. What are some of the innovative things that they're doing that others should emulate, whether in telco or outside of telco?
Yeah, sure. So for example, Swisscom introduced a very open store concept. It's more than 5 or 6 years ago. So they were one of the first who did so. So they removed all these counters where staff could hide behind it. I always say they hide behind the counter. Yeah, but I also understand our customers. I had very long talks with shop employees, and they told me, it's often it's quite comfortable to have a bit of distance to the customer, a really physical distance. Now, when we think about COVID-19, of course, it would make sense to have this distance, but this distance also creates a distance between 2 people who should work together on a solution that the customer is willing to buy at the end. And removing those distances and removing those counters from the store was one of the first things that Swisscom did. And they did a really, really nice design and changed a lot of internal processes. So they also did the first prototype of this welcoming that we also adopted now and moved further and also made it available to other customers. So this initial idea was actually from Swisscom, and so we are profiting in both ways, I think. So they have a lot of good ideas. We have some good ideas, at least, hopefully. And yeah, it's a learning curve. Yeah.
And that's where some of the best ideas come from, is when you're truly collaborating and working as partners with your customer and the organization that they're working with. That's cool. And I think that kind of ties into the next part around leadership. You spoke about the conversation you'd have with the shop folks or head office folks at Swisscom. How do you make sure your team of researchers, product owners, and product managers are building products with the end customer in mind?
Yeah, that's the toughest part.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so at least we try it. We try to be as close as possible with the end customer, and not only talking to the business of our telco operators. So we try to reach out to the shop employees. We try to reach out to the customer if he is involved in the process and interacting with our software in some way. And I believe that's the only way to create a software that's really accepted then, on the one hand by the shop staff, and on the other hand also by the employee who must use it. Both of them must use it, in some way.
Yeah.
But have them on board. So we've learned that we did over 350 telco projects so far in the last 23 years. So we learned a lot during this time. And what we saw is not only discuss with business, try to get the shop folks on board as well, try to get the customer on board as well, and yeah, do your research. So really build your prototype, test it in the store, ask the shop staff, can you work with this one? What should we change? What's working good? What's working not good? And also ask the the customer in the end. So is it a solution you are willing to use? For example, the welcome manager. We did a lot of interviews from customers. They've just used it. They've never seen this system. And you get kind of blind if you're just only working on this solution, and you need the feedback from the real world in some place. And my suggestion is always get it from the people who use it in the end, and be as much as close as possible to the customer, even if it sounds wrong now with COVID-19 to be as close as the customer.
So do you guys have a formal, does NTS have a formal process to get the feedback from, you know, your customers, the front line, from any of the telcos or operators you work with? What is the process to get that?
On, so in early stages, when we also have to differentiate between creating a new product and setting a product into place that's already been there. So when we're talking about new products, new ideas we are thinking about, our process is quite clear. So we have our own team working on this process. They mostly they have the idea, or they refine it with the customer, and then they will build a very, very lo-fi prototype. And with this very lo-fi prototype, we already do the first tests. We go out in the field first internally, in-house, so getting the feedback directly. And the next step is going outside, going to the shop employees, and that's what we are very glad. We have very good relations to our existing customers, some of them quite long-term. So our A1 in Austria, that's the former state-owned telecom operator, this was our first customer, and we are still working with them. And you can imagine, over 23 years, you know a lot of people in that company. So we have the great chance to have a lot of people at call, and I can go over to the store and say, hey, I have a new idea. Can we check it out? Can I talk to some of your shop employees and get some feedback from them? So that's really a good thing, to have such good relations with our customers, and I think we profit both with this process. And so after having this prototype test in the store, we are kind of emerging. So building the next step, having more hi-fi prototypes, and still always verifying. So we do this in kind of with interviews from experts like shop staff, but also with giving out some questionnaire to the customer's customer, so to the end customer. But mostly because customers don't have time to fill out any piece of paper if they're exiting a store. You might know this, of course. So what we do is exit interviews and getting a quick feedback. So that's the process for new products. And for existing products, mainly we are talking to the business now, and always urging our customers, let us talk to the shop guys, show them the solution we have. Let's get the feedback as early as possible. So in the projects we did, there is of course the user acceptance test, and it's quite late in the usual process of a project. We are trying to get them on board quite early, and having this feedback early, it's for the benefit of all.
That's cool. And so you touched on getting the business on your side, like the sales and marketing teams. Is there anything else that you do to get, you know, the engineering, customer team, sales and marketing aligned on your vision for a new product, or even the evolution of an existing product?
It's the same as we do with our customers. We are trying to get them on board quite early. So in the past, we have learned it's not a good idea to develop a new product like behind closed doors and showing it to nobody, and then big bang, here it is, and and then you are flooded with feedback. So so we are doing, for example, we have an all hands meeting like monthly. And if new product ideas arises, we are trying to get everyone on board. So and showing to them what we are doing and working on right now, and that worked quite well for us. And so that's the first touch point where everyone in the company can see what we are working on, and then we go into close communication with some of the people who are more interested or have some feedback. So we are always happy to get feedback also internally, so that's kind of the process. The monthly all hands, and from there we take it in separate meetings and showing it and getting feedback. And yeah, so that's kind of the process we're working on.
What advice would you give a telco retailer in the process of recovering from the lockdown?
Yeah, first of all, I would urge them to have in mind what will come next. So will we be hit by a second wave? How can he prepare best? Telco operators now didn't have the chance to prepare, so they were just reacting, and now they have the chance to proactively change their processes, reschedule some important projects they are already working on, move them more into the omnichannel sector, providing a more seamless customer journey, and of course being prepared for a more let's say from a technological point of view, assisted selling in the end, because I think that will help a lot, and will help them also to recover from this crisis.
Makes sense. So last question, where can our listeners find you if they want to connect?
Yeah, for sure. They can find us ntsretail.com/Statflo, so we created our own redirect with the reference to your company as well.
Awesome.
So there they can find also some papers we've written so far, some case studies, and also, of course, my contact information. So we'll be very happy to get in touch.
Thanks for joining us today. This is very insightful to understand what NTS is working on, how you're supporting your customers across the world globally within 23 different countries. So it's been a delight to hear a little bit more about NTS Retail.
Scott, this was my pleasure. Thanks very much for the invite. It was a pleasure talking to you. All the best to you and Statflo as well.
As always, thanks for tuning in. If you're a fan of One-to-One, be sure to give us a 5-star review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or your favorite podcast app. Catch you next time.